know that we all gonna be alright. We gon' make it through if it takes us all night. No matter what the odds may bring our way, I can see the blessings coming our way. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Blessings on blessings, yeah. I can see the blessings coming our way. Our way, our way. Blessings on blessings, yeah. I can see the blessings coming our way.
What's up, guys? It's
Dre
and Bre, and you're tuned into Worth the Wait.
Thank you for tuning into another episode. We're excited to jump into this topic because this is something that a lot of people have asked for and things that we've discussed in the past, but not in full. And it's about ultimatums. Are they good or bad in a relationship? Are they necessary? Can a relationship succeed if there are ultimatums? That is the question. So I think that, so first I want to define what I believe an ultimatum is. And I think that that's just a point to where you're forcing somebody to make a decision, and it's either this decision or that decision. And it's like, you have to choose one or the other, or that's it. Like, either we're going one or the other. There is no other option. So the question is, can it work in a relationship? My opinion is that I believe that ultimatums can, to a certain extent, work in a relationship. Because mainly I think that there's certain points in your relationship to where you kind of you may have to draw the line in the sand and just kind of be like, this is where I stand, and just letting somebody know, like, I can't budge on this thing, whether it's something in your belief system, whether it's something from a financial thing, whether it's something in your relationship to where you're telling them, I can no longer do this, or I can no longer put up with this, or I can no longer, from what I believe, I can't do, like, physically do this or mentally put myself in this position. And saying that if you can't understand that, or if you can't, capitulate to a certain standpoint, or if we can't come to a compromise, then I don't think I can move forward in this relationship. And I think a lot of our relationships end that way. And that's probably why a lot of relationships end, because a lot of people get to a point to it where they say, it's like, I can't continue to move forward if this behavior continues, and the behavior continues. So then they don't choose to move forward. But there are plenty of relationships to where you can say in a relationship, if this behavior continues, then I can't continue to be in this relationship, and the person switches up their act, and they needed that, like, real wake up call to be like, oh man, this person's serious, or what they're saying is like a serious issue, like I have a problem. And the thing I want to say with ultimatums is not like, it's not a sense of ultimatums at work. Let me say this. And when you present an ultimatum that works in a relationship, there's certain factors that make it more conducive to being successful and causing change and finding a compromise. Number one is that how you present the ultimatum doesn't necessarily sound like this or that. And it also doesn't come off as super insensitive. What you're saying in the relationship, or to the person, is like, you're trying to express to them, like, I want this to work. I want us to figure this out. I want us to find a way to move through this. It's just morally or physically, I can't do this thing that maybe you're asking of me to do, or trying to juggle one between the other, anything like that. Like, I physically can't, or mentally can't put myself up to doing this. So either you want to continue doing this thing without me, or we need to find a solution. But I think expressing how much that you do not want to end this relationship, and how much you're trying to find a compromise, how much you want to try to find a compromise, I think that that's essential to how an ultimatum can work in a relationship. But I think it's also not, when you present this or that, you're not asking them to fully embrace, I guess, that to a certain extent. And what I mean by that is that if somebody has, an anger issue or some type of issue, the compromise may not be them completely not having anger issues anymore, but like, you book that counseling session. Like, that's the thing I just needed for you to do, to show me that you're ready to take this next step. And I'm willing to rock out with you and go through this with you and heal with you. But I just needed you to take the first step. Like, so long. I mean, Bre and I, we know couples who go through stuff, and then one person refuses to go to counseling. And it's like, I'm not asking for all our problems to be fixed in a day, but if you aren't willing to go to counseling and work on this thing with me, I don't think I can continue to move forward, because how can we get better if you won't do this thing? It's not that I don't love you. It's not that I'm not trying to put in the effort to make it work, but sometimes you need that like jolt of somebody being like, they can understand that it's possible to lose you in a certain aspect, for them to like jolt their attention, or get their attention back and be like, okay, this is serious. Like, I didn't think maybe it was that serious, but they're talking about, they don't know if they can move on if I don't take this, at least this first step. Then I think that is a way that ultimatums can be healthy. And I'll say this and kick it to you, is that I think that is kind of the process of a healthy ultimatum, is not like this unattainable this or that, like it's your kid or me. It's like, what? Like, how am I my kid or you? That doesn't make any sense. Like, that doesn't make any sense. But if you're saying, you have shown you broke the TV, you punched a hole in the wall, either you go to counseling or book something with a therapist, or or I don't feel like I can move on. That's not a hard ass. That's not compromising you in any way. That's not asking you to do anything that's detrimental to you. That's saying like, this is something that I need from you, or at least take this first step to getting better. I think the bad ultimatums, or the things that don't really work, are like the unattainable ones, to where it's like, you need to stop having one more lash out of anger and I'm done. Or it's like, well, this relationship is over basically, because I've been dealing with anger all my life. I'm gonna still lash out, but I can take a first step at least, like, and try to make this work. So I think that's the difference of like something that could work and be constructive as far as a decision, but versus something that is not going to be a good decision.
Well, I like that you mentioned healthy. Wow, I forgot the word.
Ultimatums.
Ultimatums. There we go. I'm like, what? And I was about to say choices. I like that you called it healthy ultimatums, because originally when I saw this topic, I thought of like my girlfriends who were in relationships where their ultimatums were very unhealthy or unnatural, or just not normal. And I was like, yeah, I don't understand how ultimatums can ever play a positive role in a relationship, because the way I look at it is, if two people really love each other, it shouldn't get to the point of an ultimatum, because you're always working together to, make sure that both of your needs are met and that you're happy and that you're communicating, you're doing all these things. So why would there be a need for an ultimatum? But the way that you put it makes a lot of sense. And I'm going to use this as an example just because I feel like at this point, our subscribers and listeners, they know me and the whole drunken night that almost ended our relationship.
Yep.
So I didn't look at this as an ultimatum until Dre just explained it how he did. But when I woke up that night after getting very, very drunk, and saw his face, and it was like this immediate, like, oh my gosh, I did something wrong. And he just looked so disappointed. And it wasn't that he yelled at me, it wasn't that he ignored me. It was just this calm voice of, I never want to deal with what I dealt with last night again. Like, I can't do this. And because I knew even before this drunken night that I needed to get my drinking under control, my immediate response was, oh my gosh, like, I am so sorry. And it's like, yeah, I never want this to happen again. Because when you truly love someone, disappointing them in itself is a sense of accountability. It's like, I'm going to remember this feeling the next time that I'm in a position where this could possibly be the end result. Like, I'm not going to put you in this position again. So to me, that wasn't an ultimatum. It was more of you communicating to me, I can't do this. And I, in that moment, didn't think like, oh shoot, Dre's going to leave me the moment I slip up with a drink. It was more like, I'm more aware now than ever that this is not okay. And it's more so not okay because it just affected you and your whole night and the way you looked at me the next day. Like, I was like some different person. And that hurt me. So I get that. And then Dre we talked about this a little bit. The time where I really wanted to move, like we were living in a studio apartment, and you guys, the studio apartment was the smallest
It was like
space
550 square feet.
I've ever lived in. And it's because Dre was a bachelor. He was living there by himself, stacking his bread, still getting hoes, still living his
I
best
was not.
life.
I was not. I was not. I remember specifically. I'm glad that Bre came into my life before I got that place because I that was my first time after college
Why
having my
can't
own
you let me
place.
have my moment
Because
of painting a
that's not
picture?
true. That's not true.
I do remember being like, he ain't getting no hoes in this apartment. It's so small. It was cute though. But anyways, okay. So when it wasn't a plan for me to live there with you
It
though.
was not.
So it was very conducive for him to be living there as a single man. But when I came in the picture with my shoes and my clothes and the furniture I wanted and the space, it was, I mean, it was cramped, and we lived there for how long?
Like 2 years.
2 years, and we did a great job of saving our money and doing all of that. And there was a point where, without consulting him, I felt we need to move. Like, I'm ready for a luxurious place. I want to have this, and this. I know how much money we make, and I work hard, and I deserve it. And I got very selfish in a sense of, I want this and I want it now. And I wasn't expecting the reaction that Dre gave me. And this was the very first time in our relationship, really, that I felt forced to submit to him and allow him to lead. And we had to call an emergency therapy session and all of that because I was butt hurt. I was like, well, I'm gonna move. Like, I'm not living here. And he was the exact opposite. Like, if you can't trust that what I'm saying makes the most sense and that we're still gonna get what you want, just not right now, then I don't know why we're together. Almost like you don't trust me, or you don't feel I have your best interest in heart. So to me, when in relationships and stuff like this happens, it's an ultimatum in a sense where you're being forced to choose what you want versus what maybe needs to happen for the relationship to continue to grow and to evolve. And that can be hard. So yes, if it is a healthy ultimatum, I think that it can make sense. There's been times where I've known people have been in a relationship and it was like, well, if we're going to be together, like, you can't go out with your girls because I know that they're single and you're going to be around guys. And it's like, that's a very unhealthy
It's
alt. It's like,
unrealistic. It's
first
not.
of all, sir, who named you my daddy? Second of all, can I live my life? Like, what? Like, that means you don't trust me. So
Yeah,
there's
that's a
certain
different problem.
levels of ultimatums that I just think they do not belong anywhere near a relationship because, again, the love that you have for your person should make more of a compromising conversation versus an ultimatum of like, this is what it is, pick one.
Yeah, and I think you said something that I think that makes a lot of sense, and I had to kind of give Bre the definition of how I looked at ultimatums and really explain to her that I feel like we all do that in relationships at times. That's why a lot of relationships end because somebody's doing a behavior to where you can't no long you can't move forward in a relationship if they continue that behavior. And it's like, all right, I moved on. They chose to continue that behavior. I'm moving on. And even in small parts of your relationships, when you're first dating somebody and let's say you identify a red flag in a relationship and you communicate with that person, you're essentially saying like, hey, if you don't change this behavior, like, I see this as an issue, or if you can't be consistent with me in this relationship, or if you feel like you can't commit to me in this relationship, I can't move forward in this.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that like I said, that those are healthy things. And the thing for Bre and I, when she was talking about the house thing, is that was a crucial moment for me because it was bigger than the house. For me, it was like, all right, we're in this situation, and we're engaged and we're going into marriage with one another. I knew I'm the more logical person in the bunch. She's more an optimist and more pragmatic, I would say. And I knew with everything that I knew in my body that the decision did not make sense to move at that moment financially. We had a wedding that we were trying to plan. There were some different things that we were trying to take care of. And I was like, in this moment right now, it does not make sense. But what I was fighting was her emotions and her feelings. But the biggest thing that I'm getting to is that I knew there are going to be so many times in our relationship to where Bre may not understand why I feel like we need to make a decision, but I'm going to need her to just trust me anyway, because she knows that I have our best interests at heart. I understand what she wants out of the relationship. So I just need her to be able to trust me, even though she may not understand why I'm saying it. And because I earned that. So that situation was more of a draw a line in the sand for me moment, even more than it was about moving, because I'm like, if you can't trust me now, and if I know something is completely wrong and is not a good move for us, and I capitulate and I give into that, that's just setting the standard and the foundation for the rest of our relationship. That even when I say something doesn't make sense, or something that I don't feel like is something that we should move forward with every part of my body, that in your mind, if I give up on this or giving on this, in the future, you're going to, anytime I am really like, oh yeah, I don't think we should do this, you're not going to take me seriously. Because you know, if you do enough whining, or if you do enough like picking at me or getting at me, that at some point I'm going to end up folding. So for me, it was, I don't know, probably didn't feel like that, but for me, I took a lot of time to think, and I'm like, well, if you don't have, if you aren't willing to trust me and go with the plan that I have for us, because I've thought a lot about this, I've weighed your emotions and what you want. If you can't trust me, then I don't see how we could have a way moving forward, because this is only the beginning and the first time of many that you're just going to have to trust me sometimes and understand that I have our best interests in heart with the vision that I have. And not saying I will be right every time, but there's moments I need you to trust me. So that was my ultimatum in that, and she decided to trust me. And in that moment, it ended up turning out better than I think either both of us would have thought in that situation. So
But I will say that even with that as an example, it's not like the moment that you said, trust me, that I was like, okay, never mind. I don't want that thing anymore. It took time to like, for me to really think about what I want versus what I need. Is this worth, messing up our relationship? Because I definitely contemplated like, I'm just gonna get the apartment. He gonna be with me. He's my fiance. Like what? He's not gonna leave me. Like I
mhm.
definitely was trying to make some plans. And I remember sitting in the basement at your mom's, and mom and pop was sitting there, and I'm just pleading my case of why I deserve this apartment. It was so funny, but well, now it's funny. It wasn't funny at all. I was in tears the whole night, but it's important that if a ultimatum or something like an ultimatum is proposed to you, that that person give you the necessary time to like think about it
Yeah.
and weigh your options and really come up with a decision that like truly feels right to you versus being in the moment put on the spot and then end up doing something that you truly didn't want to do in the first place. So if it's that type of route where it's like this or that, you choose now, that's control. That is somebody who wants power over you, who is forcing you to be in a predicament that you probably shouldn't be in the first place. So if the person truly cares about you, they will present it in a way, they will present it out of love, they will present it in a way where they are going to be patient and give you the time to for you to gain clarity on the situation so that the choice that you make you feel good about. Then I think ultimatums, don't have to be a bad thing.
Yeah. And I think, just reiterating what I said, most healthy ultimatums come with the ultimatum being take the first step. It's not necessarily change all of your
Oh,
behavior.
like the big, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It's like, I'm not asking a lot from you. I just want you, like I said, to schedule a counseling class,
Yeah.
or a counseling session, or um just let's put on a schedule time, quality time for us to spend with each other.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I'm saying? It's like, I just want you to take the step to show me that the concerns that I have are being heard. I can't continue this relationship if you're so consumed with work and your hobbies and stuff that you can't even spend time with me. It's not that I want to end this relationship, but I don't see how I can continue to move forward. And I think that also, and we could talk about this, if your person is giving you a healthy ultimatum, not like I said, your kid or me, your job or me, or anything like that, um, it's an ultimatum is normally like a cry for help. It's like I've tried everything I feel like I possibly could to try to convince you or tell you how I feel.
Yeah.
At this moment, like I don't know what else to do but to threaten what I would feel like is the most detrimental thing to this is ending this. Like I don't know what else to do at this moment because I feel like I've been trying to tell you and trying to tell you and trying to tell you, but you're not listening to me. And I think that that's something that people need to take in consideration is like, all right, ultimatums don't feel good, but a lot of times you have to understand what your person is saying in that moment. They're saying that like I want to make this work, but and I've been trying to tell you something for so long, but you are not listening to me. So I need to shock your system in somehow in some way,
Mhm.
you know? So what do you think? Well, I guess this is a question that somebody can answer themselves. But if somebody is still, how do you think somebody should go about things if somebody gives them that ultimatum or they give an ultimatum and the person chooses to like still do the thing that they want to do ultimately? Because
Well, if the ultimatum is stop this or we're done, then they should be done.
I feel like a lot of people they'll call somebody's bluff. Like you said initially, like, man, I'm about to get this place. He ain't about to like you try to
He
call
gonna
some
pack his bags and join me.
like you try to call somebody's bluff, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like you fold and then you don't understand if I guess I'll just say in that relationship, if you give an ultimatum and say I can't move forward if you're doing this, you kind of need to stick to that because if you fold after you gave that,
Sets up the
it's
foundation.
gonna be even worse in your relationship because they're gonna feel like they can do anything. You ain't leaving. Like you're not doing nothing. Or even if you leave and come
But
back, like
that's why I said I feel like ultimatums are a tool of power because I feel like you only bust out an ultimatum to be able to like dangle something over someone's head. So if you're not really willing to, if this is the ultimatum, leave, then why present it like that in the first place?
well, I
Especially
think
when, like you said, the ultimatum sometimes is just for them to take the first step, which again, to me, that's not really an ultimatum, but I think it's just about how it's presented,
yeah, I
but
mean,
understanding that like words hold weight. So to Dre's point, it's like if you're not going to stay true to whatever the ultimatum is, maybe not word it that way or maybe present it in a way that gives a little more flexibility because you just don't want to set the stage for
yeah.
inconsistency.
For sure. And if you feel like so there's two things I want you to remember on the other side of, on both sides of ultimatum. So, like I said, if you are telling somebody, and like I said, ultimatum sounds bad, it has a negative connotation. So I know it sounds weird when I'm saying this, but if you give somebody an ultimatum, and like I mentioned before, I always use the counseling thing. It's more like, I've asked you to go to counseling for this whole year. Can we go to counseling? 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 And it's like you're still not giving me an answer or saying yes, me saying I don't feel like I can move forward in this relationship unless we go to counseling. I think that's a fair ask because maybe you're at the point to where you truly feel like if
Yeah.
we can't fix our problems and you aren't willing to see somebody, that means you're not willing to work on this with me or you don't even identify that there's problems, which a lot of times is selfish is that I saying I have problems with things, but you don't feel like there's an issue. That means that you're living in a relationship to where you're peachy cream and I'm in a relationship to where I'm not happy with how things are, and that's super selfish. And there's other problems that go on with that. So you saying, "Hey, I need counseling," I don't think that that's a wrong thing to say. But like Bree, like we just said, you need to stick to your word because, like I said, that sets the foundation. But also be um be cognizant of people who say yes and when it comes to things like they agree to it because of, or I'll say this, be cognizant of people who say yes, but then also another thing that still goes with that that's an issue of like giving in is the resentment thing. So what Bria just talked about, if she would have been like, oh, he gonna move in anyway, and let's say I moved in with her, just I gave in and was like, I don't want to leave her, I'm gonna move in, I gave in. The resentment that I would have for her, like the thing, like every single thing that she would
Don't
do,
let there be a month we couldn't pay our
I
rent.
would be analyzing every single thing. Anytime she would want to buy something, anytime she would want to do something, I'd be like, well, we could have did it if we did it. Like everything would have been like it would have been so resentful, and it wouldn't
Yeah.
have been good for the relationship. And I feel like even the other way for us, you truly had to trust me. That's why I said, either that's why I presented our ultimatum to a certain extent. It wasn't either we don't move in or we move in, make a decision. It was like either we don't move in or you trust me. That was the decision. It wasn't asking you to not move into the place. It was just saying, trust me, because I'm not saying we can't move to a bigger place. I'm just saying I have a plan that's a little bit different than yours that will work out, I think, even better for all of us, and it'll give you exactly what you want.
Yeah.
So I think that that's something to keep in mind too, is that resentment. You don't want to like enter a place to where you're saying yes to something you don't want to say yes to, or you're, giving into something that you don't want to give into, because it's going to ultimately, you think that's not compromise. You think that's compromise, that's going to end up biting you in the butt. Compromising effectively in a relationship, I think, is both of you all getting to a place to where you both are okay with the decision that you made. Compromising isn't just saying yes to something that you don't want to say yes to, because, like we said, the resentment is going to end up tearing that relationship apart.
Yeah. And vice versa. If Dre only gave me the option of like, we're going to stay together and you're going to live here and be perfectly fine, or you going to go get that apartment when we be done, I would then resent him, because then it's like,
Yeah.
well, I'm literally telling you I'm not happy in this space. If you're going to force me to be here, and that's the only way I can be with you, like, then I'm gonna resent you. So it's very important that, when we had the conversation, he was like, now I know what you want. Now I know what would make you comfortable. Now we can plan and get that in a time that I feel safe and secure in, because of the fact that it's my job to make sure we're always okay. And then I'm like, okay, so this means I am so loved that he's going to make a plan for this and he hears me. I am so secure that I have somebody who is able to make sure that the move we make is smart and not just something that we want and looks good. And then 3, the fact that he heard what I said and I'm still going to get exactly what I wanted in the end. It's just about doing it as a team versus on my time. So I think that what you said is a really good point, and kind of on both sides of the ultimatum, both people have a serious situation on their hands in terms of how they're looking at it, dealing with it, and responding to it.
Yeah, for sure. I think we all deal with ultimatums or decisions that we have to make in our lives, whether that is in relationships, in business. We always say in business and in life, there's certain things where it's like either this or that. I mean, everything isn't always so black and white, but there are people who need that
Yeah.
to kind of, you know, get them going or get their attention, to let them know that they're dealing with something that's serious. Because if you have gone throughout life to where things have been so lackadaisical and so fluid, and you've been allowed to do things, and people threaten you with things, but it necessarily didn't pan out. That's why a lot of people, when they actually make change in their lives, it's through like a traumatic experience, right? Like something really had to jolt their system to be like, oh shoot, like it may take like somebody who shouldn't be texting on their phone to get in an accident, and it maybe isn't crazy, but like something that just had them like, oh yeah, I shouldn't be doing this no more, like, or I shouldn't be speeding no more. It takes that, and that's essentially what that is just, you know a jolt to the system. But beware
Yes.
of those unhealthy,
And
unrealistic.
if you're the one giving the ultimatum, watch your words, make sure you are presenting it in love, and that you are being patient with giving them the time to give you an answer, because ultimatums are hard.
Yeah, I like you said that, doing love. And one thing she said, I'll piggyback on that as we come to an end, is you talked about the communication part of it, which I think is so important. Like in our situation, I acknowledged that she was heard. Like it wasn't like, no, either you do this or this. And it's like, go ahead.
Dre also gave me a whole presentation, and that was like, oh, you put time and effort into this, like pulled up the different like apartments that are available and like the price points, what we could get, and like a new area that was opening up that if we just wait we could be at. And it was very nice for me to feel like, okay, this matters to him too, and he heard me. I'm not being ignored. So I think it's the way that you present it, literally and physically, the way that you present it makes a big difference, because if the person feels that you put in time, energy, and effort, it shows how much you care.
Yeah, and I think that's a huge part of it. And I'll use a therapy example again if in relationships, because I feel like a lot of people who deal with ultimatums, a lot of times therapy or talking to somebody is the answer. Is that, let's say, I'm saying like either you need to go to therapy or I don't feel like I can continue with this relationship. It's like, hey babe, like, this is how I feel. I've looked through different therapists, like, and I kind of created a list of people that I think, you might like, or that's close to home, or that can do virtual. This person's really good for dealing with this. I checked maybe with your insurance and stuff, and your insurance will even cover it, so it won't even cost us anything. It's making the person feel like that, like Bree said, that you're invested, you care, you're not just giving this thing just like F you, like get it together, or I'm like, I don't care about you, because ultimately can come out as insensitive sometimes. So it's like really showing somebody like, no, I care and I want to see make this happen, and I want to be a part of the solution. I just need you to take the first step to show me that you're part of that you want to see this happen too.
Agreed.
Yeah. So let us know what you think in the comments. Make sure to give us a 5-star review on Apple or Spotify. And let us know if there's any other topics that you want us to discuss on this podcast, or if there's anybody else you want us to talk to, or, kind of engage with on the show. Maybe bring some people on or something like that.
Yeah.
But make sure you follow us on Instagram at Dre Smith, at Brianna Ponte, and at Relationship Restored. I always get the burps when I'm doing this.
It's really weird. I always yawn.
At Relationship Restored. But we thank you guys for tuning in, and we hope this episode helped give you some perspective on things. Peace.